Welcome to the Business for Good podcast,
a show where we, Paul Shapiro and Tony Okamoto,
spotlight companies making money by helping solve some of the world's most pressing problems.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Business for Good podcast. We hope you enjoyed the last episode of our show. I had a strong personal interest in it after reading Father Greg's book, Tattoos on the Heart, The Power of Boundless Compassion. I felt so compelled to interview him, but it was a very different concept than what we usually do. We usually highlight businesses, and his group is a nonprofit that creates businesses for the sole purpose of doing good in the world. I was, again, a little bit skeptical of how it would be received, but surprisingly, it has had an overwhelmingly good response. So thanks to everyone for letting us know how you liked it.
This episode of Business for Good is also going to be a new concept for us. We are not interviewing a nonprofit this time, but we are doing a podcast showcase. So what that means is that we have traded an episode with a friend of ours, Adam Yee, who is also my business partner at a company called The Better Meat Co. And Adam is the host of a podcast called My Food Job Rocks. He recently ran our episode that we did with John Mackey, the CEO and co-founder of Whole Foods Market. And in the spirit of reciprocity, we are going to showcase an episode that he recently did that we really liked a lot. It's a really cool episode with Sara Polon, who is a friend of Tony's and mine, and who is the founder of a great company called Soupergirl.
The first time I went to Soupergirl, which is in Tacoma Park, DC, I had matzo ball soup for the first time ever. It was during Passover, and I've been learning a lot of things about Jewish culture. Paul is Jewish, and his family is very culturally Jewish. And so I learned about how to eat certain foods and not eat certain foods during Passover, which was really cool.
So in this episode, we are going to be featuring Adam's podcast interview with Sara. And she's a pretty interesting character because before she became an entrepreneur to try to do good in the world, she was a stand-up comedian. And she still is really funny, but she made the transition from being a comedian to an entrepreneur because Sara wanted to use the power of business to actually make the world a better place. So she started Soupergirl, which started out as a single location company serving entirely plant-based soups. These are not soups that you're going to find products like plant-based meats in them. However, these are whole food, all natural soups that help people meet their goals of trying to eat a more plant-based diet. I personally love going there. I love her soups. They're really good. And it's a great example of the power of the entrepreneur to help people make a difference in their own lives, to improve public health, to improve environmental sustainability, and of course, animal welfare too.
As a solopreneur, I personally am so impressed with Sara's work. She had a small team of her and her mother when she first started, and I just can't believe how quickly they've grown. They're constantly on big time media. She was recently on the Today Show. If you go check that out, I'll link it in the show notes. It is so good. And those are my goals, to reach mass audience with the message of doing good in the world.
So without further ado, let us bring to you this episode of My Food Job Rocks, featured here on the Business for Good podcast. I hope you enjoy listening to Adam interview Sara. And while the purpose of his show is not to necessarily spotlight companies that are doing good in the world, you will learn something about the food industry by listening to the interview. But you also get to hear Sara talk about her own journey and why she wants to make the right thing to do, eating plant-based in this particular case, the easy and delicious thing to do. So enjoy.
Why does your food job rock?
I love that question because it's so I have a passion for food and its ability to change people, to change the planet, to change the future. And every day I get to work towards fulfilling that dream, that passion, that vision.
Welcome to the My Food Job Rocks podcast, a weekly podcast where we interview experts in the food industry and hear about career advice, new food transit technologies, and share our passion for food. I'm your host, Adam Yee, and you're listening to episode 141 with Sara Polon, founder of Soupergirl, an authentically made soup restaurant that has an online soup delivery service in Washington, D.C. After a stint of being a comedian, Sara Polon became inspired by the local food movement and started to learn more about this world. But how did she feed herself? Well, with her mother's soup, of course. And that's kind of how Soupergirl got started. With constantly changing innovative flavors such as split pea mint and Mexican black bean sweet potato and speedy delivery service, Soupergirl is growing fast. Soupergirl has been featured in press multiple times and has critical acclaims of the taste and the health benefits of the Pollan family soup recipes. Rumor has it they'll be appearing on Shark Tank very, very soon. Check the show notes for more details. Anyways, super insightful interview with Sara Polon. I learned a ton about passion, motivation, and also about high-pressure processing. A quick note, we talk about Alexa during this interview, and when editing, Alexa added 5 apples to my shopping cart. I'd like to put a little personal note on our newest sponsor, foodlabelpro.com. I met with Kelly Tessitore through various avenues, but mainly at the Good Food Institute conference, and we got to talking. And she really liked what I was doing, and I really liked what she was doing. And she's agreed to be a sponsor on My Food Shop Rocks. So let me introduce you to foodlabelpro.com. Is your product packaging compliant with the new FDA rules? The compliance deadline is January 1st, 2020. At foodlabelpro.com, we will upgrade your current panels for only $50. Foodlabelpro.com also provides package and claim reviews, laboratory analysis, shelf life testing, printer and graphic services, and menu analysis. We are your one-stop shop for food packaging. Foodlabelpro.com. This episode is brought to you by Bakerpedia, the largest digital resource for the baking industry. Need answers to an ingredient or processing question? Trying to understand the origin of an ingredient or its FDA status? Look no further than Bakerpedia.com. All right, on with the show. So, you have an interesting background because you used to be a comedian, right?
I did used to be a comedian, and it is an interesting background, indeed.
Yes, I think, but comedy is one of the smartest skill sets, I feel, because you need to think on your feet, you need to make people laugh, and you have a chance of having people not laugh at you. And was it stand-up that you were doing?
Yeah, I did stand-up and improv and some sketch, so a little bit of everything. And I would say the feeling on stage of not making people laugh is one of the worst feelings in the entire world. There's really no way to put into words that feeling in your gut when you've landed, you've put your number one joke out there and there's crickets. The churning in the stomach and just this dread, this feeling of dread. It's palpable, it's physical. And normally you go for an 8-minute set. Everyone's always going for 8 minutes of gold. That's a standard set. And if you get up there and you don't land your opener, that 8 minutes can feel like 8 years.
Oh. So I follow this, influencer, James Altucher, and I think he's in New York actually, but he's gone through this, comedic journey as well, and he's been documenting it, and it's been really interesting about his perception on comedy, and I think one of the things he mentioned was when you're doing stand up, there's an aura around where there's a setup where people are judging you because everyone is going and everyone is doing. There's a stage for it, right? It's different than public speaking, where people really don't judge you in public speaking because one, I think the context of you being a good speaker is already set, and people generally don't say, "Boo, that was a terrible public speaking gig," right? So they'll say, "Wow, this guy sucked at stand up."
Yeah, well, if you're public speaking and you have a really funny speech or an enjoyable speech or an engaging speech, people are pleasantly surprised, but they're not going in expecting that. versus comedy, you better make them laugh. It's almost like, they're sitting there with their arms crossed. Okay, make me laugh, man, or make me laugh, lady. And it's that it really depends on the audience. The other thing is you can have an incredible set, feel on top of the world, and then the next night do the exact same set and just bomb horrendously, and it's just like, what was the weather, what day of the week, who was in your audience, were they drinking, who knows, there's a whole science to it, but it's just fascinating. An identical set, and that can really mess with your emotional well-being.
Oh man.
But it's worth it, because it does build thick skin, confidence, public speaking skills, like you were saying, ability to think quickly, react quickly. And I do think my comedic background, I really tried hard to bring it into the brand and make our brand very approachable and fun and hopefully funny. And it's been a real differentiator in my mind for Soupergirl and when we build the brand.
Interesting. I definitely would love to go into that the further we go in this interview. So based off Soupergirl, you've changed between one profession, I guess, to another, I guess, and what I guess is like, these are all really fun jobs that you're doing, comedian and running your own business to feed people. So I like to ask this question about how you describe yourself. When someone asks what you do for a living, what do you usually tell them in a sentence or less?
Yeah, I love that question. I answer, well, first of all, I really try. I just mumble. I'm a small business owner in the food business, because if I'm out socially and someone doesn't know me, I really don't want to talk about work. But if I really try to avoid that. But sometimes I'm outed as a small business or a Soupergirl, and then I say, to be honest, I say, I'm Soupergirl. I am building a plant-based, all-natural, handcrafted small batch soup company. And that's what I do.
Yeah.
I embody that's it because of the brand we've built. It's not, there's no separation. I am Soupergirl. it's this whole concept of like work-life balance and everything, like, it doesn't exist because I'm the brand, and I'm very, very grateful for that. But it's a lot of pressure.
So I read an article about you or about your company in, I think, the Washington Post. Am I correct?
Yeah.
Okay, and it was about the soup cleanse thing, right?
Yep.
And, in general, most soup cleanses fail because the soup, I don't know, the cleanse is more important than the actual food, right? In terms of like other people's stuff.
Yes, and we've rebranded it. You won't find that on our website.
Okay, anymore. So you changed it. But what I wanted to get at is that when this person tried it, they felt full, right? They felt nourished, and that's pretty cool. That means the food is more important than the cleanse concept. So why did you rebrand it though? Because it's not a cleanse. People were, one person commented on that article and they said, Sara Polon's going to clean your colon, which I love. and I think that's hilarious, but my mother was like, stop saying that. But it's not a temporary fix. It's not a quickie quote unquote cleanse. And what we're trying to do with the Super Meals program, which is the new name for it, is really change your approach to food. So you really hit the nail on the head when you said that the person who did it, they felt full, but they were eating substantially fewer calories than they do on a day where they're not doing our program. Because we're feeding people everything your doctor says you should be eating. So lots of plant-based protein and fiber, hydration, vegetables, and not too much. So when you eat like a chili or a lentil soup with seasonal vegetables cooked slowly with a lot of flavor and not a lot of salt, you're left feeling really full after a relatively small serving. So you're not craving snacks. You're not thirsty and going for a soda. You don't have a sweet tooth craving. You're not, you're not really that hungry. And so and then after a few hours, you eat another one. And the only exception is at the end of the day, we suggest people have a light soup that's not
full of all that protein and fiber, because I don't recommend people go to bed stuffed. And honestly, like a hearty black bean soup, you're full. And so, we recommend we end the day with like a gingered sweet potato soup or something like that. But if you have 4 of those soups, you're gonna consume much fewer calories. You're going to feel full, and you're going to feel energized. And that's not what words that people associate with a typical quote unquote cleanse. And that's why we had to rebrand it. Someone said to me, they're like, when I have people on my staff doing a juice cleanse, I will not let them get on phone calls with clients because they're angry and lethargic and obnoxious. And that was very telling. Because that's how I get when I'm hungry.
Yeah,
I'm very unpleasant. Very unpleasant.
You're right. I felt unpleasant this morning, and now I had lunch, and now I'm not unpleasant. Right.
Because you gotta fuel your body properly.
Yes, definitely. And you have some really cool like recipes. I've noticed, like they're unique in a sense. Like, I'm looking at this peach gazpacho, right? I don't think of putting peach in gazpacho. I don't know if that's generally the thing, but.
No, it's not, but thank you for noticing that. We like to think of our flavors as creative but approachable. So they're not full of very strange ingredients or strange, unapproachable, maybe almost scary, but they're creative, unique. So you'll recognize certain things: curry, quinoa, lentil, gazpacho. You recognize them, but then we'll put a little twist on it. So for example, gazpacho, we'll make a beet gazpacho or a peach gazpacho or a watermelon gazpacho. And so it allows us to have a lot more flavors. So we're not going to serve just lentil soup. It's going to be gingered lentil sweet potato or curried quinoa, roasted sweet potato, something like that. And so we're really taking traditional flavors and just adding cool twists. So if you're having soup all day, you're never going to be bored because each soup is different flavor profile, different aroma, different texture, but always healthy and delicious.
Yeah, and with the word peach or beet, that's surprising, right? And that's it. Gives it excitement. I think in this day and age, I think that's what consumers are looking for. And actually, I went to Target the other day, and Lay's was doing again their do us a flavor type of competition, right? So they're doing like I don't know. This time they're doing a kind of unique spin on it. They're doing dishes around the world, or around the U.S. So like I think there's like a Arizona queso or
right.
Yeah. So there's a lot of things about putting something unknown into something known, and from my years of food sciencing, that's how we figured out that's kind of the best way to introduce something foreign is to do that.
That's I didn't think about that. I mean, my mom always says when we're interviewed together, she loves saying how we think that we've expanded people's palates. We've introduced people to new flavors and new textures and new spices. And, some people have never heard of, for example, some people at this point, most people have heard of quinoa, but when we first started cooking with it, people were still calling it quinoa and not knowing what it was. And now we're playing around with freekeh and bulgur and things like that. And people trust us, and then they'll say, "Oh, well, sweet potato. Okay, I get it. Let's try that." And it works. You're absolutely right.
Nice. So, how do you figure out these new ideas? Do you Mad Lib it, or do you get inspiration from somewhere? Yeah,
my mom's in charge of all the recipe development, so I leave that to her. But first of all, we're always working with whatever's in season. We work with a huge network of local farmers around the Mid-Atlantic region. And so we know what's in season right now. This is the best time of year, like August and September and even early October, because you have all this amazing summer produce, and then the fall produce starts coming in. So she'll take other people's recipes and tinker with them and combine them and come up with her own, or just look at what's at the farmer's market and then just start playing around. And she's in charge of that. Nice. She taught me everything I know about cooking. I didn't go to culinary school. She taught me everything I know.
Does your mom have prior experience? Like, how did she know how to cook so well?
It's just trial and error. She jokes that, I mean, when she got married when she was 21, I think.
2021.
I just like 20. Whoa, my God, you were a child. And she did not know how to cook anything, and she tells these stories about how she used to cook, and I think it's a testament to where she is now, because she's incredible, and she's one of those rare people who can cook and bake.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah, that's important.
I cannot bake. I once did a brownie thing, and my boyfriend said it sounded like the death of dessert. So that was the last time I tried that. But I can cook. But she just tinkers in the kitchen and just, kept getting better and better. And she just taught herself to cook. And so then she didn't learn shortcuts. She didn't learn quickie meals or anything like that. So growing up, she always made everything from scratch. And that's the kind of style that we took into this company. So when we launched this, we genuinely didn't understand why there were so many chemicals and preservatives in soup out there. I mean, we were like, when I used to live in New York as a comedian, my brother also lived there. And when my folks would come up and visit every, 2 months or 3 months or something, they would quite literally come up with a cooler of soup, like my mom soup. And then we would just stuff our freezers, and I don't know what other people eat. So then, and it really helped nurse me through rough times and get me healthy. And then when we were starting this company, we're like, there's a real dearth of good quality soup. And like, we say, if you're not going to find an ingredient in her kitchen, they're not going to find it in our kitchen at Soupergirl, because we don't even know how to cook with it.
Nice. So let's go into that. Let's go from kind of the very beginning of how you started Soupergirl.
Well, the truth is I had left comedy and was working in just kind of for a friend. And I got really down. I wasn't doing comedy anymore. I missed it terribly, and I wasn't sure what I was doing. And I just kept sliding, to be honest, like physically and mentally. And I kind of hit rock bottom. And then I started pulling myself out of it I signed up for a triathlon. I got help, and I started really paying attention to the food that I was putting in my body. Again, I had kind of gotten away from that for a while and just wasn't feeling good. And I kind of started working back up to health. And then I read Michael Pollan's book, The Omnivores Dilemma, at around the same time. And things just started coming together. I realized the real impact of your food choices on yourself, on your health, on your mental health, on your physical health, on your community, on the world, the planet, everything. And then I also realized I really have problems with authority. And so I better start my own business, even though I had no idea what I was doing. And soup was logical because of what my mom makes. And my mom jokes that she said, okay, I'll help you. And she had no idea what she was getting into. I like to say no girl should ask of her mother what I asked of mine, but thank goodness it worked. And we started off with she started cooking, and I had these like salon style meetings in my apartment every week where she would cook all these soups, and then I started apprenticing at like local soup shops and cafes to learn how to make this stuff. Yeah, on a big scale.
Oh, was this like soup kitchens, or was it like a restaurant?
No. Like there was this really nice guy in Baltimore. I would get up at like 4:00 in the morning on certain Sundays and head out to Baltimore to this. It's a really nice bakery cafe, and they had a big soup program. And they said, if you want to come and help us and learn, come on by. So I would go there a lot for hours and just take notes and cook with the chef in these huge. I didn't even know what a soup kettle was, and I learned, that you don't just take recipes and multiply that times 50, because then if you put in 50 times the amount of cayenne pepper, you're going to burn your face off. So I learned those techniques. And meanwhile, we were giving people samples of soup in my apartment and getting people's feedback. And that's how we developed our initial database. And then we just started delivering in November of 2008. We started delivering to people's homes and offices And immediately we got some press and really grew quickly because, again, there was this dearth of good soup. And people knew it was me and my mom. And, there's no junk going in the soup, and it's made by us, and I'm delivering it. And we grew from there. We added catering, and then farmers markets, and then eventually we opened up our first store, and then our second, and then we entered Whole Foods, and then Costco, and then now we're shipping. But it's still, I'm here every day, and my mom is still doing the recipes. So in that regard, nothing has changed. I still stand by every single unit of soup that goes out the door.
That is an amazing story. And what I like about it is that you guys have done a step-by-step approach, right? So kind of a baby step approach. And I think a lot of people who maybe want to start something like this or something else, they don't know how to approach it at first. So a few questions on how you got maybe your first customer.
Yeah.
How did you get your first customer? Let's go with that first.
I had some very kind friends.
Nice.
But what we did was we had a launch party. Someone gave me this idea. We had a launch party. And I asked about 6 friends who didn't know each other. So 6 friends from different kind of groups of friends to be on the host committee. And they spread it around to their friends, and then they spread it to their friends. And the next thing I knew, we had like hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of people on this Evite, this launch party, and my mom and I were in a full panic mode. But it kind of, I mean, the Evite went like a little viral. I mean, in Washington, D.C.
What you call it? I mean, I'm curious what your title was, because that's what hooks people, right?
It was like the Supergirl launch party, and people were like, who is Supergirl?
Nice.
And then that got forwarded to some press. So that was very scary. And actually, it's funny, the blog and the weekly email was called Daily Candy. Do you remember Daily Candy? They've since closed.
Okay.
But Daily Candy used to be, I don't know what the comparison is now because there's so many blogs and websites and everything, but I begged that writer, and I still have that post hanging in my apartment, laminated, hanging on the wall. And I begged her. I was like, please wait. We don't know what we're doing. And she's like, I can't wait too long because we need to have the scoop. So she went with it. And then we got like a lot of customers right after that, and then just kept growing and growing. So that's how it was at launch party. And then we still have some customers from 2008 that still get delivery at their homes, which is amazing.
Interesting. So this is also another interesting question about regulations. Did you just do it and not worry about any regulations or anything?
No.
Some people do. Some people don't, right?
Yeah. No, we never cooked out of our. People are like, oh, do you do this out of your house? I'm like, no. First of all, I still find that funny. So I'm like, we're in Costco. Like, no. And second of all, that's not legal. So no, we always rented from a restaurant or a place that had fully licensed, and we were food service managers, and we had our proper license and insurance, and we always operated according to the law and clean, and that is like an obsession of mine. And now as we grow, obviously the regulations are much, much bigger, but those are not things you want to mess around with. They're in place for a reason.
Of course, definitely. Just wanted to test what type of rule breaker you were.
Yes. I'm a risk taker, but I'm also like with food, in my mind, I always tell my staff, like, if you mess up, somebody's going to die. So let's approach every decision you make like that.
That is, yes, that's super important. Like, you don't want people to get sick from your product. It imprints something really bad. Like I think Taco Bell, McDonald's is a good example, right? Like, I got, someone gets sick there, they probably don't eat there again for years, right? So, yeah. I mean, you don't want that to happen, even getting sick.
Yeah, it's not good for the business. It's also just not good as a human being to know that I made someone sick. It's not a good thing to do.
That's definitely true. So what was the hardest part about starting this business, or what is still the hardest part right now?
Oh, it's growth is hard. Mm-hmm. Growth is very hard, and you got to keep innovating, and you have to keep growing, or eventually you die. And people's attention spans in this day and age are very, very short. So you have to keep them interested, you have to keep them loyal, and you have to keep your quality up. So it's just growth. Managing growth is very, very challenging, but exciting. It's exciting, but it's hard.
What are some of the ways you've managed growth? Are there any strategies you'd like to share?
I recommend to people, and I wish I followed this more carefully, is try to be as proactive, as you can. Some of the worst mistakes I made were reactively hiring instead of proactively hiring, or if I couldn't proactively hire, knowing that when I hit a certain revenue stream, exactly the position I needed to fill and what their job was going to be. So as soon as I was ready, I could plug that in. And too many times I would hit a point and then I would hire reactively and sometimes make the wrong decision. And I'm referring specifically to a story where we needed a driver. One of our drivers quit, and this kid just showed up and applied. And I was like, "You're hired." And I trained him once, and then I started getting calls from the local Whole Foods that he was leaving boxes of soup on the ground on the driveway, and then committed a hit and run, and then lied about it. And I was like, okay, so that was a good lesson to learn. But that's just try to be as proactive as possible. But again, it's more theoretical. But as you grow, you have to. You have to.
Yep. No, those are very good tips. What do you think is the most important skill you need for your industry?
You need to have leadership.
Leadership.
You need to know. Yeah, you need to know. And I'm not saying I have this skill. What I'm saying I'm learning is how to delegate, how to not be the roadblock to your own growth. And I am very, very guilty of that.
Do you think that
good leaders know how to delegate? Good leaders know how to have the vision and where your own strengths are and where the strengths of your team lie, and how to delegate properly to push the company forward.
That is very good advice. And do you think, do you have any books or learning material that someone can get ahead on that? Anything that has resonated?
That's a great question. No, I don't. I wish I did. I honestly got that advice from advisors, people who have given me advice. I will never say no to anyone who offers me advice, someone in the industry or a business person who offers to meet with me, to share wisdom with me. I will never, ever say no. And some of the times it's someone who just wants to hear themselves talk. But a lot of times I've gotten some really, really great advice. And that is an example of one. So I didn't read it in a book. I heard it from someone who's gone through this before me.
So yeah, advice is really important. And I think for a lot of people, and maybe even people starting out, it's hard to choose the right advice, right?
It is. It is. Because when you're just starting out and you think everyone knows something and you don't know, you're going to end up running around like a chicken with your head chopped off, and changing your focus. So you need to know your passion, and you need to keep in mind what you're trying to do and what you're trying to build. And that's so important, especially in the food world. This is a business of passion. This is a business. And if you lose that, if you're not inspired by it, and you start getting told by all kinds of people, oh, you need to do this. Maybe you should add cream to your soup. Maybe you should add more salt to your soup. Maybe, if you're not passionate about it, you can make a wrong choice. And if you no longer believe in what you're doing, you're going to be gone in a matter of months.
Love that quote. I think that's really important, and it resonates with many of my other guests. People are in the food industry because they're passionate about it, right?
Yeah.
I think that is, especially with starting a food business. I mean, lower than average margins compared to most industries. Perishable raw materials. So compared to like a computer or software, like this is an industry where you have to be passionate. That is the biggest fuel of growing something in the food industry.
Yep, absolutely. Absolutely. And you know, no one can prepare you for the amount of work. And it's not, the thing about the food industry is it's not an app. It's not, you need ingredients, you need a kitchen, you need staff, you need equipment. So there's a lot of risk involved. And you just, I can't stress enough how much you have to work. And if you don't believe in it, you just don't do it, or yes, you won't last.
I definitely agree. So this falls along a good vein of, why does your food job rock?
I love that question. Because it's so I have a passion for food and its ability to change people, to change the planet, to change the future. And every day I get to work towards fulfilling that dream, that passion, that vision. I work to grow this company because I believe in it, and I believe in the power of food and its ability and its power to change, to heal people, to heal like it healed me. I believe in its power to do so for everything, people, the planet, what I just said. So every day I get to wake up and do that. I can't think of anything that rocks more. My food job rocks because I'm living my passion.
Excellent. That left me speechless. Like that is really important to keep in mind, is that, you know, you're doing this to really feed people. And I think when you feed people, especially your food, that means something, right? Yes, that has, you know, you are impacting them in a way you know, whether it's substantially, financially, whatever, you're still impacting them in some way. They are taking their valuable time and money to buy something you've created. And I think that's really something powerful.
Thank you. Yes. Feeding people this food, it's a really, I'm so fortunate that I get to do this every day. It's hard, but I'm so fortunate.
So, I guess in terms, so this, I don't know what about that. I kind of want to know about the testimonials you've gotten, like the people who've tried your soup, or how they've tried their soup, or stories about that. Is there anything you'd like to share?
Yeah, I mean, so you have some people that have done the Super Meals program. Mm-hmm. One of my favorites is one person. She said she's been going to the same doctor for 20 years, and the doctor called her up after a recent exam, and she said, whatever you're doing, keep doing it, because this is the best blood work you've had in 20 years. Whoa. That to me was like, oh my gosh, that was incredible. And we also, because it's soup, it's easy to digest, it's comforting. People have told us that it's gotten them through treatments, through really harsh illnesses, through, you know, cancer treatments. And that to me is there are no words when someone writes and says that our soup helped heal them. I just am so grateful that I have the opportunity to help with that. I almost feel guilty charging people because I'm just like, no, I just help, and then I'll go out of business and then not be able to help anybody. And then people say they use our soups to sneak vegetables into their kids' diets.
Oh, interesting.
And so that gives me ideas for future, of course, brands and product lines. And people just say that they've integrated into their lifestyles, that they now rely on us for just good, honest, clean, healthy food. And they open their fridge and they see Soupergirl and they're like, well, now I know I have healthy lunches and dinners taken care of. It's incredible. It's incredible. You usually only hear from people when they are upset. But we are so fortunate with these amazing customers. Well, that's, the whole, I won't say too much, but but we do have these customers that write in with these reports of just like how it's changed their lives and how it's changed their approach to food and how it's changed their weight and their cholesterol. We have brides that have started eating our soup before their weddings and fit into their dresses or, had to take them in. And that's just awesome. It keeps us cooking. I like to say that kind of feedback keeps us cooking.
Nice. I love it. And that's really amazing that you have that type of impact on people. What type of food trends and technologies are really exciting you right now?
Food trends or technologies?
Well, either or. We usually like to give people a choice.
Well, for me, the obvious is the huge rise in interest in plant-based food.
Mm-hmm.
It's incredible to me, and I'm very excited to be a part of that. I don't want to call it a trend or a fad. I think it's here to stay. I think it's only going to grow, and I'm just ecstatic about it. This explosion in interest in plant-based. I mean, we were at this food show in July, and someone came up, they were just walking the floor, and they said, man, if you're not doing something plant-based now, you are just out. And I was like, yeah, but the technology I'm excited about is what you're exploring with the Good Food Institute, this lab-grown meat, because I recognize that the whole world isn't going to go vegan yet. And so to get people away from factory farming, to get the world away from factory farming, while still getting, fulfilling that need that some people have for meat, it's very, very exciting. Mm-hmm. And that's what I just, like I said in the beginning, we urgently need to face our food issues as a country and as humans. And so that kind of technology is very exciting.
Have you heard of high pressure processing?
Oh,
I'm sure you have.
Yeah, all of our gazpachos are HPP.
Oh, really? Awesome.
That stuff is incredible.
Uh-huh.
That's crazy.
Yeah, I know it's starting to scale up right now. It used to be unknown like 4 years ago, but yes. now it's starting to happen. And I actually don't know who does it or who does things like this. I don't know how expensive it is, but
it's crazy expensive.
Oh. Good to know.
Yeah, it's really expensive, but it's really cool. It's really cool to being able to extend your shelf life for such a crazy amount of time with no chemicals or additives. It's very exciting. I know it's really big, obviously, in the juice world, in the fresh juice world, but we use it for our summer gazpachos, our chilled soups.
Oh, interesting. So how long does it increase the shelf life for you guys?
When we had official lab tests, that gazpacho without HPP, the shelf life is maybe 10 days, and with it, it's 95.
Oh, shoot.
Yeah, and it probably could go longer, but I don't want to put something on the shelf with like a 6 month shelf life.
Yeah, you don't want cold soup for 6 months.
Yeah.
Huh. Yeah, I didn't actually know the numbers, so but I'm glad you guys are using it. It's a really cool tech, and everyone in at least that type of raw sauce or soup or juice industry keeps on talking about it. So yes, I know some hummus companies use it. It's expensive. And it's not fun when your stuff explodes inside the HPP machine. Because what it does is it puts the equivalent amount of pressure as what's on the bottom of the ocean on your container. Yes.
And sometimes your container cannot take that amount of pressure. And so it explodes all over everything.
Yeah.
Yeah. But overall, it's pretty awesome.
Yeah. I'm glad I have a kind of a hands-on explanation about it. So thank you.
Absolutely.
So what do you think is the biggest challenge the food industry needs to face right now?
The biggest challenge that a food producer needs to, there's a lot of,
there's a lot.
Yeah, there's a lot of challenges. So one thing that's really hard is if you have an idea and you want to start cooking something, and you want to do it legally, obviously, there's not a lot of shared kitchen space available to try out a product. And it's really hard to get the guidance to know what's the legal roadmap? What sort of certification do I need? Tell me about food safety. How do I safely get this product to market? And so there are some of these incubator kitchens around Washington, D.C., and they're great, but there just aren't enough of them. And so it's hard when you want to, as I made the reference earlier, if you want to try an app, or develop some sort of technology, you don't need physical assets. You just need a computer and the internet. But with food, you need a kitchen. You need a clean kitchen. You need a license. You need to know what temperature you're supposed to bring your food to and how quickly you're supposed to cool it and how you're supposed to store it and what is its shelf life. And all of these things cost money and time and knowledge. And that's hard. And especially there's a lot of, in my opinion, mostly well-intentioned and good regulations out there. There are a lot more that are out there now because a lot more people are getting sick. And it's not necessarily that food isn't safe. It's just that our system is so interconnected. Like you might get, for example, like if you're getting a salad at, let's say, McDonald's, or I don't want to name any specific restaurant or something. Your lettuce might have come from Mexico. Your tomatoes might have come from California. Your dressing might have come, the ingredients in that dressing, well, that had come from 10 different places. And so it's really hard to trace where the issue is, where's the gap in the chain that's causing people to get sick. So their regulations are important, but they can be a barrier to young people trying to break into the food industry.
Yeah, that's very true. I mean, we're in Sacramento, and there are people begging us to invest into an incubator kitchen, and it's just it's not the time or the place right now, but they're needed. But they restaurants or like kitchen space is really expensive. Everyone wants to do it, but it's so hard to sell. It's like the maker spaces, right? Like,
yep.
There was one company that really got shut down because they couldn't handle like the rent or something like that. And maker spaces are really important, but it's just hard to get the return on investment on that. So it's very tough.
It is very tough. And then to start an incubator kitchen, well, you have to have a lot of equipment. There's, again, all these assets. And that's just costs money. And there you go. There's a big barrier to entry.
Definitely. But I'm sure they will find a way. Or if not, the beauty of cottage industries in some states have been a boon to a lot of beginning food producers. When I was in Arizona, theirs were really lax, but there wasn't much innovation in the food over there, right? So, yeah, so,
that's interesting.
People do it, but they kind of tie on you because you only do like shelf stable foods, right? Like cookies or something like that. So, you couldn't do soups. It's not shelf stable in a sense, or the parameters to make it shelf stable are pretty difficult for an average person to do. So,
yes. Not worth it. Arizona's so hot.
I know. I mean, it's gonna be shelf stable anyways, right?
Yes, exactly.
What is one thing in the food industry you'd like to know more about?
I would like to know the future. I think things are changing so rapidly. There's a lot of consolidation going on, and there's this tension between traditional retail and delivery, fulfillment, online versus farmers markets. And I would love to know what the crystal ball says about where it's going. It's such a strange and interesting time for food right now. And there's so much unknown. And so that's another thing when you enter this world. It's like, am I investing in the right aspect of my business? Because, I mean, we just don't know. Traditional giants that you thought were just stalwarts and going to be around forever are falling, and startups are and taking over. And then it's just the way people shop. It's just different. 6 months ago, it's different. You just can't get it. It's like, everything's online. No, not only is everything online, it's on Alexa. Oh, no, not everything is in Alexa. It's Alexa on your phone. And then it's how do you keep up?
Yeah.
How are people keeping up with this?
It's hard. It's super hard. I wish I could tell you.
I mean, I'm like apparently a dinosaur because I like to go to the market and look at product. I enjoy, going to the farmer's market and going to the supermarket and shopping and seeing the food I put in the cart. And if I have a dinner party, I will open up a cookbook and write a shopping list. And I find great joy in that. That's just what I learned from my mom. And that's how I like to shop. But I think I'm a dinosaur.
Well, I mean, I don't buy my groceries online. I really actually dislike the concept of it. I think it's important, you don't know what these guys, they don't care about like how firm the apple is or how firm the tomato is, right? It's or at least it's very rare to get someone who cares. For me, it's much more important. I enjoyed long walks in the grocery store. So,
yes.
So like, it's important. I think it's important to look in. At least as a food scientist, I even look at like, okay, why is this here? Or what is new? Why is Beyond Meat? Why does Safeway only have like maybe 2 square feet of Beyond Meat, right?
Right.
And okay, but a month later, it grew to 6 square feet, or something like that. So that's really important for me to go to a grocery store among buying food, and I think what I'm trying to get at is that, yeah, there are trends, but as you know through business, there are niches of these trends, right? And not everyone is going to jump on, Alexa, buy me 5 apples in Safeway, please. And have a drone delivery. I think a very small percentage will do that. So I think most successful small business food companies, and again, I'm speaking as someone who doesn't do this,
but you talk to a lot of people.
Yes, I do. Yes, they care about their niche. If they want it to be special, they'll branch out, but they don't have to do everything. They have to be good at what they want, and then slowly introduce the new things when they have time. I think it is a luxury for a small business to do it at a point of, I guess, peace instead of a point of war in the business sense. And I think that's really important to keep in mind. So.
Yeah. I think you're right. I hope you're right.
It gives a lot of comfort to people saying that. So.
Yes. Well, if there are enough people like you and me, then we'll be okay.
There you go, right?
Yeah.
People will jump on new trends, but I think the trends that survive, as we kind of want to bring this full circle, they know what they're good at, right?
Yes. Yes. I mean, we're good at making soup. We're figuring out how to get it into as many people's hands as possible. But we're certainly not shunning the traditional old-fashioned grocery store. That is just in our retail stores. That's just those people. They're, especially in a foodie world. I have to have faith that people that quote unquote foodies want to go and shop. And like you said, touch the apple, see where it's placed in the grocery store, and just stay a little traditional. I can't believe that shopping in a grocery store is traditional.
That's funny. I still prefer going to the cashier than the automated machines. I think that's important too. It's difficult, but I think things change, but things also stay more things stay the same than they do change, even though it doesn't seem like it, right?
Again, I hope you're right. I hope you're right. Well, we can say okay, we get all kinds of different messages about what's healthy, what we should be eating, but an apple a day keeps the doctor away. I don't know when that cliche came about, but it is still true. Just eat your fruits and vegetables. No one said don't do that.
Yeah. So, you can say the same. Coconut oil is weird, right? Because you have
very weird.
3 months ago, 6 months ago, I think we said it's good for you, and then 3 months ago we said it's bad for you, and now people have no idea.
The coconut oil is a funny one. I'm with you on that. It's so funny you bring that up. My boyfriend and I got in a big debate over that. Because it's just, I was always taught if the oil is solid at room temperature, avoid it. And then people are like, no, but that doesn't apply to coconut oil. And I thought, but that doesn't make any sense. So that was a great example.
Yeah, I don't want to put any. I mean, I know both sides of the story, but we can get an hour talk just on coconut oil alone.
Yes, just on coconut oil. Definitely.
Yeah, but again, we all know fruits and vegetables are healthy, right? So that hasn't changed in a long time. Nobody has ever said fruits and vegetables will kill you. Right.
Right. Unless they have salmonella, but that's a whole other discussion.
Well, now I put it that way. Yeah, right.
But then we go back to the whole, our food chain is just so interconnected.
Yeah,
you don't even know where it comes from.
Well, if we want off-season vegetables, then that's what we'll get, and that is what the market wants most of the time. I know there, especially in Canada, there's been a change on local food. U.S. had that. I think it's dying off a bit, but Canada is really strong on local. So, I think it's hard for people to accept seasonality nowadays, and I think that's kind of where the spur for different vegetables all around the world has kind of brought up.
Yeah, I hope local isn't fading, because I like to say, you're not going to find a pumpkin soup of ours in July, and you're not going to find our tomato basil soup in January, because we're in the DC. You're not going to find local pumpkin in July. You're not going to find local tomato in January. And so let's not cook with it. Let's cook with what's around us and what your body's craving. And there's it's not just pie in the sky kind of, well, we should all be local, but it's in the winter, your body isn't craving the same thing as it's craving in the summer. In the summer, you want watermelon, you want melons, you want peaches, you want hydrating cucumber. The produce you find in the summer is very hydrating. It's very full of water, because that's what you need. And then in the winter, you need more starch, you need more energy to keep warm, because you're cold, you're shivering, so you need more energy, more dense foods. That's why you're going to go for your potatoes, your sweet potatoes, butternut squash, your carrots, your beets, things like that. So I personally am in a total local bubble. I'm such a jerk face about that. In my little bubble.
As long as you take care of your bubble and it makes a community, I think that's okay. Yeah. Right?
Thank you. I appreciate that.
That's one of the big advices I give to people is just make sure you treat your community well. Then sometimes it doesn't matter what everyone else is doing.
I think you might be right.
I hope I'm right.
Yes, me too.
Who inspired you to get into food? I think I know the answer, but yeah.
It's a combination of my mother and Michael Pollan.
Ah, yes.
That book really, really changed me. And then my mother's cooking and the healing power of her food, combined with reading that book, produced Soupergirl.
Great. I love that. I love that story. What's your favorite kitchen item?
I'm not a big fan of gadgets.
Okay.
Yeah. So just for me, as long as you give me a knife and a cutting board, I'm happy.
Do you use a blender of some sort? Like what?
Yeah. Yes. I mean, yes. I do love. I do love my Vitamix.
Okay, Vitamix.
Yeah, I do love pureeing things into total oblivion. but otherwise, I mean, that even requires it. So it's a funny story. When a couple of years ago, there was this huge snowstorm, and my parents, their electricity went out for a really long time, for many days. It was bad. And my mom's like, well, I'm going stir crazy, but I wish I could just cook. And I was like, Mom, you have a gas stove. What is your problem? Just cook. And she's like, but I can't. And I'm like, use a match. And so it turned around. She just cooked and cooked and cooked. And then she's like, well, the electricity's out of the refrigerator, all the food. I'm like, okay, there's 4 feet of snow in the back. Just take the refrigerator contents, just open a door, throw them outside. And she's like, oh, and it just, but all she needed was a knife, a cutting board, and fire. And that, to me, soup is just like, as long as you have that, you're good to go.
That's true. Yeah. I mean, I thought you guys were so old school to use food mills or Or,
No, I mean, we do for gazpacho sometimes.
Okay,
small
gazpacho, okay.
stuff, but with the quantity we're cooking these days, no,
it's
can't
really
use
hard.
it too much.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, food mills, the issue is they clog up, right? Just because there's so much granulation.
Really time consuming.
Mm-hmm. I've used one once, and I'm like, I'll stick to blender.
Kind of overrated after a while.
So I want to ask you a few questions from my friend Paul Shapiro, who is Jewish, and so are you, right?
Yes.
Okay, so
he asked you to ask me these questions?
He did. Well, yeah, I was talking to him because of our project. I said, "Oh, I'm interviewing a Supergirl," and then we got into discussion like, "You mean like SOUP, SOUP, or SUPER?" And like, oh well. So anyway, the discussion eventually happened that he knows you, and he wanted to ask some very Jewish questions.
Let's do it.
So you guys are closed Friday and Saturday for the Sabbath, right?
We're closed Friday night and Saturday all day. Yes.
Okay. And why is that important to you? Because those are busy times in the restaurant business, right?
They are. We're kosher. We're a kosher company. And this just goes into technicality. So because I'm Jewish and we're a kosher company, we have to close. We cannot cook or conduct commerce on the Sabbath or on Jewish holidays. If I wasn't Jewish, we could, which is sometimes frustrating. Yeah, that's a weird one. I know. But that's the way the law is. And it's extremely important to me to uphold our kosher certification. I don't think there's enough healthy food available to the kosher community. I'm kosher. And so it was important to me as we grew to stay kosher. And those are the rules. So you got to abide by the rules. And I have to be honest, knowing that everything is shut down and closed allows me to take 24 hours off. I don't work on the Sabbath, and it kind of keeps me, because I don't really take vacations. It keeps me sane. It keeps.
I think that's why it was invented, right? Or that's why it was created, right?
Yes. Uh-huh. Yes. That is exactly why, and I think we've gone away from that, and so I'm forced to.
That's a
great.
good thing.
Yeah.
So you have to be a kosher business. That's interesting. So you don't have to be a kosher business to serve kosher food.
Oh no, you do.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Everything is kosher. No, but if I wasn't Jewish, we could still be kosher and be open on Sabbath.
Okay. All right. So just a rule.
Good. Yes. That. Good luck trying to understand it, because I don't. But I think I questioned the rabbis on it several times, and I just learned to leave well enough alone.
All right. How many of your customers are Orthodox Jewish?
Fewer than you would think.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think that most of my customers are kosher or vegan. I think most of my customers are just lovers of healthy food, or soup lovers, and just appreciate a good, healthy, handcrafted meal. Mm-hmm. I don't know the exact percentages. I know that the kosher community has been incredibly supportive, and I'm very, very grateful. Mm-hmm. And some days, especially over Passover, we go kosher for Passover. It's packed with kosher consumers, but some days not. I mean, our location, in our flagship location, our original one, is in a very diverse, funky, cool neighborhood, and we just get all types of people in here, and we love it. Yeah, it's great.
That's awesome. How do you like working with your mom or your family?
I get that a lot also.
Oh yeah, you do. Interesting.
Yeah, well, because a lot of women, it's like, oh my gosh, if I had to work with my mom, we'd kill each other. I'm very lucky. First of all, I truly believe it's because of her approach to diet and exercise. She's 73, I think, and she has the energy level of like a 30-year-old. She looks 20 years younger. And we just have a blast together, and we just do not edit. It's like the one person you can be around and just there's zero edit. And that's very, very refreshing. just like we have verbal diarrhea. Just like you just say, and that, like, yeah, you might get in a little tiff, but you love each other.
All good. Yes, of course.
Friends.
That's family, right?
It's family. And so we are extremely close and have had a blast together.
Great. And final question we have from Paul is, how do you make vegan challah?
He loves that challah. It's called a water challah.
A water challah, okay.
Yeah, so bread doesn't have, like, if you get a loaf of bread at a bakery, it doesn't have egg in it. So the egg is a lot of times used for like the coating. So it's just called a water challah, and it's just, they use, we don't bake it. We get it from a kosher bakery nearby.
Oh.
But it is called a water challah, and it's not, it's like if you can bake bread without egg, you can bake challah without egg. It's just not a necessary ingredient. Tell Paul he needs to go back to baking 101.
That's so fun. I was like thinking like, oh, do you put like mung bean protein or something? And I was like,
nope. Nope. It's flour and water in bread.
Flour and water.
Yeast, right? That's your basic bread recipe right there.
Yep. It's a curled baguette.
Basically, yeah.
Okay. All right. Okay. I accept that. That's funny.
Yeah.
All right. We're almost done here. Do you have any advice for anyone who's going to the food industry, or let's say being a comedian or starting a food business? Choose one of them.
Choose one of those. Those are those are
or choose all three of them. Choose all three of them for all you want.
I will just say, I mean, this is so cliche, but life is so short. And if you want to do something, do it. Just like, the comedian thing in particular, because even take a year to, if you think, but if you don't want to do it, don't do that, because I really can't stress how naked you feel on stage when you are bombing. It's just like standing there with your pants off and wearing black socks. That's how you feel. But if you think you have the inkling, if you want to do that, just go to New York, get on stage, just get on stage, because you'll never know. And that's the worst feeling. Regret is the worst feeling. It gets you nowhere. And you can't turn back time, so just do it. Entering the food industry, I would, I don't know. It's really hard right now. I would just say start small. Don't invest too much until you know you're ready. Because it can really kill you. It just can really take you down. And you got to be ready to keep fighting.
How do you know that you're ready?
For me, I was do this or do nothing else. You get to the point. I got to the point where there was no other choice in the matter. I got to the point where I had gotten myself healthy, and I started really taking this seriously and really understanding food, and there was no other choice. I took a while to figure out how I was going to do it, but I knew I had to do it. And I think if you know there's no other choice, it's do this or do nothing. Do it. Just do it.
Love it. I love that so much.
I will say, like, if you overthink anything, the best decisions I've ever made in my life, I kind of just am like, I'm going to do it. And I don't overthink them, because then when like a year later, when I go back and I sit down, I'm like, what happened? Then
why am I here? Why am I on stage in New York? Yeah, right? Exactly.
It's like this out of body experience. Like, what? But thank goodness I've done them, because I'm very grateful for the life I've had and continue to have.
Beautiful. That is really good advice. Speaking of advice, where can we find you for advice?
Well, head to Soupergirl.com, and you can always, there's a contact us link, and shoot me an email at any time. You can also tweet at us at the Soupergirl, or on Facebook. Supergirl, it's all Supergirl. Just look for Supergirl. So, Facebook, Twitter, but the website, you can always email. And I'm more than happy to answer any questions, help people out, give advice. So many people help me out. So I'm always happy to pay it forward and do anything I can, and help young people starting out in comedy and food, or both.
Awesome. Yeah. And just remember, it is Souper girl, right?
Thank you. Right. Yes. Supergirl, not messing with, not Gal Gadot. I don't even know who Supergirl is.
I forgot her name too, but
yeah. Yes, with the soup, apple soup.
Anyways, Sarah, this was a really fun interview. Thank you for joining me today.
Thank you, Adam. It was really a lot of fun.
All right, have a great rest of your day.
Thank you. You too. Tell Paul hi.
All right, of course. All right, take care.
Take care. Bye-bye.
Thank you for taking the time out of your day to listen to episode 141. You can find the show notes at myfoodjobrocks.com/141 Sarah. That's SARA. If you like this episode, please leave a 5-star review on iTunes or like us on Facebook. It shows that this podcast is worth listening to. You can also follow us on Twitter or Instagram to get kind of more exclusive content. We're trying to diversify our content a bit. So you'll see a bit more, for example, of the company process on Instagram. Twitter, you'll see more video clips. So if you like, please follow all of our social media accounts, which can be found at the website under the Find Us On tab. Also on our website, we have our weekly newsletter, The 5-Course Meal. What we do is we send out a weekly, usually on Fridays, of what we've posted on My Food Job Rocks, and also a few other industry tidbits. As you know, the food industry, there's always something new and exciting there every single day, and take some pieces and write a little bit about it. It's kind of my little exercise on evaluating what is happening in the food industry. Next week we have Bryson Bolton, who I've met at Ignite session at IFT. So we got to talking because he has a really cool background. Not only is he going to be another sensory scientist on the show, but also he is in the IFT board of directors, and he's a pretty young dude. So we really dive in on how he kind of rose through the ranks, and he has a really interesting story. I really love talking to these passionately technical people, and we just have a lot of fun in general. So Bryson Bolton. Other than that, I'll see you next week.
All right, folks, thanks so much for listening to the show.
We hope you got a lot out of it and that you will show us some love. You can rate Business for Good as 5 stars on iTunes, support us on Patreon, and tell your friends interested in business or really just in making the world a better place about the show.
And we'd love to hear what you're thinking. Please feel free to contact us anytime via our website, businessforgoodpodcast.com.
And as always, we hope that you will be in the business of doing good.